You've tuned into The Seed, brought to you by the Staley Credit Union and Vieweg Real Estate. Hello and welcome to The Seed. I'm Julie Staley, CEO of Spencer Films and president of the board of directors at the Staley Museum. My co-host, Laura Yar, is not with us today. She has another week off, so we will see her on our next podcast. So we wish her well as she takes another day off. So much needed for her, keeping very busy over at the Staley Museum. So I hope you can stop in sometime in Decatur and check out the new exhibits that they have and all of the new things that they have as we get to start reopening after all this pandemic situation has taken a hold of us. A lot of new things and fun things there for everyone to see. But we are talking on The Seed about our documentary that Spencer Films is putting together about the life of A.E. Staley. It's called Fields of Gold, and it will be released sometime later this year. We are literally in discussion right now with people about distribution, and there are a lot of decisions to make and different avenues we can go. So we will be announcing something very, very soon as to when this will be coming out and where you'll be able to see it. So we hope that you keep tuning into The Seed for more information and to stay up to date on when that's going to take place. And our stories here on The Seed are some of the stories you may see in the documentary or that you may see over at the Staley Museum, but you also will hear some stories on here that aren't part of the documentary and are not part of the Staley Museum. So we hope that these little gems, these little nuggets of information will help piece together some of the history of A.E. Staley, of his personal life, of his professional life, and of the company. And joining us today, we have a very special guest from Staley Credit Union, Jim Slade. Hi, Jim. How are you today?
Hi, Julie. Thank you for having me.
No, we're so glad to have you here. Jim is the chairman of the board over at the Staley Credit Union, and you are one of our sponsors. Thank you so much for your help, for your sponsorship, your partnership, your friendship, and your support. We appreciate that. We also have Vieweg Real Estate as one of our sponsors, and we want to thank them. They are also extremely invested in the history of our community. And our other partners, the Herald and Review, First Mid Insurance Group, and McGuire, Uhas, Huffman, and Buckley CPA. All of these companies are pitching in our community and helping preserve history. And the Staley Credit Union is a true piece of history because it started at the Staley Company. Jim, if you want to maybe kick it off and tell us a little bit about how this got started.
Okay. Well, I'd like to start out by saying that, it's been said many times, I think, that Mr. Staley was a visionary, and he certainly was in his business. But what people probably don't understand is his affinity for family, and that extended down into the employees of his company. It was like a family organization. And in 1919, he developed a fellowship club. And the fellowship club, probably everybody would be familiar with the Staley Bears, but that was under the auspices of the fellowship club, as was the Staley Journal, which you can find that online with the Staley Museum. Also the Staley picnics, the parties, the celebrations, the pump house, the clubhouse, all of that. There were other sports as well. He had bowling leagues. There were softball leagues, baseball leagues. They had several championships. But again, the Fellowship Club was established in 1919. And what evolved out of that was eventually employees were able to get loans through the Fellowship Club, which led into the fact that the credit union concept itself began around 1849 in Germany. It was introduced into the U.S. in 1909, and in 1930, in June of 1930, the credit union was created by 25 original members. They were Mr. Staley's executives, and they each put in $5. No, $25, sorry. And so the credit union then was chartered by the state the next month in July. And they have gone on now for many, many years. 92 years it will be in June of this year. And still very successful in terms of taking care of the needs of employees of A.E. Staley Manufacturing Company, but also years ago they opened it up to the public in Macon County, Moultrie, Piatt, DeWitt, and Shelby. Actually, in the last couple of years, we've opened that up as well to a corridor that goes all the way into Indiana.
Oh, wow. That's amazing. That's fantastic. Just what A.E. Staley would have wanted is to have more people to have access to this kind of an institution. As you said, you're so right. He treated everyone as family. His employees were his family, and he wanted to give everyone an opportunity to be able to have a good life, to be able to have a good paycheck, a job that they had a lot of pride in, to work at a company that they had a lot of pride in. He worked to help provide homes that were built in the area, nice homes for his families to live in. And then they would put pictures of their beautiful houses in the Staley Journal. So it was really neat to page through that and to see people in front of their houses and that he had helped along the way. And so this was another step in that. And what's interesting about it is it kind of began in kind of a grand fashion when they opened up the new administration building. The credit union was in the beautiful lobby there. And can you imagine going, this is pictures, I believe, of the construction of the lobby, which many people haven't seen before. But can you imagine going into that lobby and that's where you got to do all of your banking?
It would be breathtaking. I've been in there many times.
Yeah, it's a piece of art. It's like a museum in there. It's definitely wonderful that Tate & Lyle is keeping it well preserved and maintained. And yeah, if anyone gets a chance to go in there, don't pass that up. What's interesting is maybe the kind of the history of how the Staley Credit Union was part of the company for decades until the company was eventually purchased by Tate & Lyle. And then all of that change took place. And so now the credit union is not part of the company. It is its own entity, correct?
That is correct. And I would say this too, that as we talk about the creation of the credit union, back in 1930, you and I don't really remember this, but that was the early part of the Great Depression. And people had a really hard time getting loans on their own. They weren't high wage earning people, and banks didn't think a whole lot of them. And then what happened was in 1930 was the banks started failing because of the Depression, and it was an opportune time to have an in-house credit union that took care of our employees, Mr. Staley's employees, in the way that he felt they needed to be treated.
Yeah, absolutely. Again, he really, whether he knew it or not, he was pioneering something that was ahead of its time and was going to really help out his employees during that depression. He He didn't seem too fazed by the Depression as a result of the fact that he built that administration building. They started that in 1929. It was finished in 1930. He may not have been able to see exactly what was ahead, but he had a sense of some things, and he still had the wherewithal to just keep going forward. That administration building cost a fortune, and he just went on ahead because he knew it was something that was going to better the company and be a better environment for his employees, for everyone, and for the city as well. So again, looking out for everybody else.
So true. And actually, during that construction time of the office building, they were also building the syrup refinery, 5 and 10 building, and the starch packing house 20 building, which has been torn down a few years ago. It was the 8-story building on the west side of the viaduct. And there was a steam tunnel that went from the office building to 20 building to the syrup refinery. And they all kind of grew up at the same time. And again, his vision was incredible.
Now, Jim, you not only work with the credit union, but you worked at the plant for many, many years.
I did. I was there for 42 years.
Mm. And so when you started, you would have started under A.E. Staley Jr. and worked as he was the president of the company. What kind of a sense of, what was the feeling there of working? What kind of environment was it?
Even though it was, I started in 1968, so that was 28 years after Mr. Staley passed away. With A.E. Staley Jr. In charge, it still had the family concept. And I think that really drew a lot of people to be extremely dedicated, long-term Staley employees. Again, the concept of family and the way that they treated their employees back in those days was really, really good.
Yeah, would there be something that you could name specifically, some things you could name specifically that you felt like the company had that wasn't seen anywhere else?
Well, I think that, one of the things that Mr. Staley did, again, because he didn't believe in laying his employees off. And so they created what they called an extra board. And so, for example, if one area in the plant was going to be down for maintenance or whatever next week, those employees wouldn't be put out on the street. They'd get distributed through the extra board to other areas of the plant. So they maintained their time and their pay.
Yeah, again, always looking out for making sure that the employees had something that they could rely on, because tough times came and went. Again, A.E. Staley he seemed kind of impervious to it. He just knew that things eventually would work out just fine for everyone, and he made sure that he fought for that through everything that he did. When you get people that come in now, new customers, do many of them talk about the history? Is it something that they appreciate? Is it something that they know of, or are you getting new customers now that don't really know about this history?
Well, I think there's still some old timers like myself that have been associated with the company or with the credit union for many years. And of course, you hear it from them. They'll talk about the old days and so forth. But those people are becoming fewer and far between. And there's a younger generation that's pushing through here. And there's not much in the way of that history that really sits well with them, not sits well, but that is in the back of their mind because they haven't been exposed to it. That's one of the things that I really like about what you're doing. This will bring Mr. Staley out for everyone.
And you, at your, I think one of your locations has kind of a display, maybe a little history area of memorabilia, and you're helping keep the history alive through things that people can see and learn about, which is really wonderful to have another addition to a location in Decatur that people can visit to see some of the memorabilia that you have there. Part of the history that you have is you always talk about what if you owned your own bank, and if you join Staley Credit Union that you will, and when you're a credit union member that profits come back to you, not your investors. And when you ask how, well, you think lower interest rates on loans, higher dividends on savings, financial education, and unmatched member service. And by becoming a member, you just have to visit StaleyCU.com. This institution is not federally insured by Member Choice. It is proudly insured by American Share Insurance. Jim, can you tell me some of the things that happened at the start of this organization, this institution, that set it apart from the banks? What were some of the things, the rules or the regulations that they had that made it different from what people were used to at banks?
Well, back when it first started, it was strictly employee based, and it was one employee supporting another. You might have a guy that needed to buy a new vehicle or needed to buy a new home, and he could get a couple of his friends to co-sign for him, and the credit union would loan him the money.
And this was something that, yeah, it made it so much easier and more accessible for people, and really something that really was kind of unfathomable before this, that they would be able to reach that.
It's true. It's true. The thing that Mr. Staley did for Decatur was as much economical for the city as it was for the company, in that by providing opportunities for people to buy cars, to buy homes, to pay taxes, et cetera, that just enhanced our community.
Absolutely. And that seemed like kind of like a trend, like that A.E. Staley had with everything. He wanted his company to enhance the community. He wanted his family to enhance the community and his family of employees. So by enhancing their life, it helped with the community. And so it all worked hand in hand. And it has for decades.
True. And back in 1930, to the best of my knowledge, there was only one other credit union in Decatur. I believe that was the Wabash Credit Union. And so Mr. Staley was really on the cutting edge of bringing that in, especially during those really rough times for people during the Depression.
Yeah, it was very well timed, even though he had no way of really knowing that. But somehow the timing was on his side. It seemed like the wind was always at his back in that way his whole life. So kind of was meant to be in that respect. Another piece of rich history we have in Decatur, Vieweg Real Estate. They are proud to support Decatur and its rich history. They not only help people buy and sell residential and commercial real estate, but they enjoy connecting them with the community that we all love. Decatur and Central Illinois have much to offer anyone who chooses to reside here, and Vieweg Real Estate is ready to help you find and buy that dream home or business. You can find out more at viewegrealestate.com, Vieweg realestate.com. Vieweg Real Estate, working hard so you don't have to. Yes, they really have supported a lot of our history in town, as the Staley Credit Union has. And Jim, you've really seen a lot of that history for the 42 years that you worked at the company under A.E. Staley Jr. Can you tell us a little bit about any experiences you had in talking or doing business with Mr. Staley Jr.? Gus would have been his name.
Yes, I have one story I can tell you, and that is that I'd only been there. Well, I joined the company in '68, and in the summer of 1970, the union chose to go out on strike. It was supposed to be a short strike, but it ended up being 13 weeks. And so the salaried employees jumped in to run the company. Well, one of my assignments was in the starch warehouse, loading boxcars with bags of cornstarch. And it just so happened that one of the guys on our team was Bobby Staley, who was A.E. Staley Jr.'s son, and a really nice guy, as a matter of fact. But Bobby was on our team, and every now and then, Mr. Staley would pull up to the warehouse. The warehouse is like an eighth of a mile long. He'd pull up to the front of the warehouse, and he'd walk in, and of course, he got noticed right away. But he just wanted to come and watch Bobby work. He thought that was really nice that Bob was in there and he was participating, helping the company. And coincidentally, A.E. Staley Jr. was married to one of my grandfather's law partner's ex-wives, Billy.
Okay, so yeah, it's a small community in Decatur. Everyone knows everyone at some point, or maybe is related to everyone at some point. Yes, Bob Staley, Uncle Bob, we refer him to. He is a wonderful, loving person. We sure adore him, and he does have a lot of wonderful stories about working at that company as well. He's told us many of stories. He has a great sense of humor, so he always has a way to inject humor into it, because not every day was the best. There were many good days and many good years, but he always has a way of injecting a lot of good humor into that. The times are really changing. He and the both of you were there at a time where the company was changing, but not even so much to blame it on the company, but just the world was changing. Business, the way business was done, the culture of business and manufacturing was changing. So I had to make a lot of adaptations at that time.
That's so true. And, one of the sayings that they had back in those days was, if there's one thing that you can count on with Staley, and that's change.
Exactly.
But that's not always a negative thing either.
Exactly. Yep. Change for the good, making changes so your employees can, live a better life and have more opportunity. That's always the way to go. And that is exactly what A.E. Staley stood for. So, well, Jim, we are so glad that you shared your stories with us. As I mentioned, Jim is part of our documentary and Fields of Gold. And when that comes out, you will be able to hear a little bit more about Jim's story and the story of the Staley Credit Union. So thank you so much for joining us. We really appreciate you being here.
Thank you. If I could just make one more comment.
Absolutely.
You mentioned that we have 3 branches here in Decatur, and that's true. 22nd Street was the original, and Woodford and West El Dorado. We also have had a branch in Lafayette, Indiana, for many years, and we are on the cusp of opening up a second branch in Lafayette, which we're very excited about.
When will that be open?
We're hoping within the next couple of months.
That's great. Was it something that had been planned like before the pandemic, or is this kind of a post-pandemic decision?
No, this was something that actually we've been working on. We knew that there was growth opportunities in Lafayette 5 years ago, but all the planning that goes into it. Then you throw the pandemic in. It just so happened that about a year ago, we found perfect facility for us. We don't have to build. We bought a facility over there. It's very nice. I think people are going to like it a lot. It's on the south side of Lafayette. The other credit union is on the north side. So we hope to serve all of Lafayette at this point.
That's wonderful. Again, you're expanding your services to the people that need them the most, and those are the basic tenets that A.E. Staley had in his company. So you're continuing his legacy, and that's really wonderful to hear for everyone. So thank you, Jim, and thank you to everyone at the Staley Credit Union for continuing the legacy that A.E. Staley started. Thank you so much. And that is all we have today for The Seed. We will see you next time. We will drop on April the 5th. We will have Vieweg Real Estate with us. Jim Wilkerson and Tim Vieweg will join us to talk about their company history and Decatur and how much they are involved in preserving history in the area. So thank you so much for joining us. We will see you next time.